Good afternoon, everybody. This is Johnny Mac 365 coming to you live. Um, First, let me give a shout out to, again, some of the people that I admire. I like their content. Nepturian, Deanna Irving. Um, I appreciate you all. Appreciate you all very much. Um, as you see in the title says, let's be clear. So let's start with let's be clear. Also, I'd like to thank everyone that has sent me comments because I do try to read the comments and give some type of response. Okay, now that being said, um, hey, hello, Crystal Wilson. I'm sorry, Crystal Wilson. Fee, how are you? Felicia M. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yolanda Martinez, Gwen Jones, Felicia M. again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope everyone is doing well today. I appreciate you guys stopping in and making me feel good. I appreciate you very much. Now, let's get to the topic. Let's be clear. I'm giving my observations. And I think one of the things that people are missing is that I'm not going in on the women, or I'm not putting a magnifying glass on just the women per se. However, I understand the role that women play in our community. They are the nurturers. They spend more time with the children than the men do in most cases. But the behavior I'm seeing on YouTube by the women, in my observation, it seems as if they are not being cognizant of the role they play. And the fact that I continue to say that women want to go after the men or the gay men as if they're being attacked, but the vile things that comes out of their mouth towards each other is appalling and astounding. How can you be a nurturer and not affect the offspring with that type of behavior? That's what I'm saying. And if we are ever going to get to middle ground, if we're ever going to solve the issue that some women have made in their minds about gay men and whatnot attacking them and how horrible the men are to them and all this kind of stuff, you first have to work on yourself. You have to realize who you are and who you think you are that you're not. So no, I'm not attacking women. Let me say this again. I'm not just observing the women behavior. However, so often they want to come after people and don't think that someone is going to respond. And then when they do respond, you want them to respond the way you want them to. You have no control over how anyone responds to the craziness that you do or the things that you say. I watched the video last night and I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, the hitting below the belt, the threats. I'm going to San Antonio and I want to see if you keep that same energy. For real? I'm trying to understand what's all that about. This is YouTube. You're taking everything off of virtual reality and taking it personally. Totally personally. I'm just A6 of 7. How you doing? Onsite April. Wow. Wonderful. Good to see you onsite April. Wonderful to see you. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to have you guys here. Nicole's waist trainer. Beautiful. Thank you for dropping in. Sherry Land, thank you. And we think that these things and that these behaviors are not going to affect our children. It may not affect them, or it may not have the effect right then. But when you implant this kind of behavior into the mind of a child, because again, let's talk about atmosphere, especially when you claim to know Jesus and have salvation, it just bugs me out. It just completely turns me on my ear. I know Jesus. I'm a prophetess. I'm an evangelist. Yet everyone in your household, you have created an atmosphere because you're doing this in your house. And you're creating an atmosphere. You're planting that seed in the atmosphere. And believe me, the atmosphere does respond. It does respond. If you don't believe me, just try doing something positive and see how the atmosphere will take that little positive things that you've done. And when it brings it back to you, it brings it back to you in abundance. The mustard seed is a very, very small seed, but when you give it to the earth, what you yield from it is a bushel. When you plant corn, when that stalk grows up, you don't just get one little piece of corn, you get several ears on that stalk. So whatever you put into the atmosphere, it's going to bring it back in abundance. Begin to think and rethink your position on a matter, whether it is personal or not. Do not make what is not personal personal. Getting in your feelings. Yeah, we all get in our feelings every now and then. I have to admit, we do. And sometimes we, sort of lose it and vent. But catch yourself. My whole position is if we don't hold ourselves to task, and that's all this is about, it is about revealing the fact that you control you. No one else controls you. Nobody controls you but you. You can allow what I say to affect you. However, you don't have to. That's a choice. And that's another thing. We have choices. Yes, we're human. We make wrong decisions and wrong choices that we have to pay for. Because again, you reap what you sow. But in the scheme of things, what we want to do is we want to think and rethink before we react and put things out into the air. Self-control it's a wonderful thing when you get it. When you get the components and the proponents of it and you implement it. Cynthia Jones, how are you doing? Your pleasure, 721. Thank you for coming by. I appreciate you stopping in. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. Usually I upload my videos, but today I decided to go live because I got I got a response to one of the videos I put up, and I appreciate, again, I really appreciate all the comments that you guys leave, because it really helps me to stay on track. As a matter of fact, it helps me to stay on track. And then sometimes you have to explain. Well, you don't have to, but I choose to reply with somewhat of an explanation of my point of view, or where I stand, my perspective. And in that, I responded to the individual that I have been observing a lot of these behaviors on YouTube for a while. But my whole thing with is the things that we tend to do that we don't really take into account of, especially when we get into our feelings. When we get into our feelings, we just become blind. And my thing is, I don't like swallowing a camel with no problem and then choking on a gnat. And I'm sure we all know how big a camel is and how small a gnat is. What that is that you're able to handle all of the big issues or the big confrontations, but there are little things that we tend to choke on. And the little thing that I'm talking about is our own behaviors and how we respond and how we carry ourselves. Because my last video was ladies, ladies, ladies. And you will be called out by the way you carry yourself. If you don't want to be attacked, then there's a simple way of dealing with that. Because sometimes people are going to come at you anyway. But usually, if you carry yourself in a certain way, you can stand up and say, no, 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 we're not going to do that. That's not how we're going to handle our differences. That's not, let's have a talk. Let's sit down and communicate. Because most of this stuff is non-communication. And non-communication has two components. It has the components of listening and the components of speaking. And at the same time, we control how we feel. We control our feelings. We put our feelings in check and we listen to what the other person is saying. Well, again, J. Dot, thank you for dropping in. Chopper Cobra, how are you? Red Clark, honey, how are you? Doreen Bronx, thank you for dropping in. My goodness, I'm loving seeing you individuals in my live. Wow. And it's basically my first live. So I appreciate you all for coming in. 6 of 7, how are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Wow. Lamone Mizik, thank you for dropping by. Thank you for coming into my chat. Yes, you guys are, at this point, you're part of the MAC Association, and I appreciate you showing me the entrance. Gwen Jones, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you all. I appreciate the comments, because it is important for me to know both positive and negative. It's important for me to know. So this way I can respond accordingly. However, when it comes to disrespect, in this chat, and whenever I do a live, I'm putting it out there now. Disrespect will not be tolerated. We can speak to each other without being disrespectful and without being disrespected. Everyone has their own perspective on issues and matters. And it is so very important, because a lot of times, if you listen, you will learn something. We have all this stuff going on out here in these YouTube streets, people windmilling over stupidity. And I will say this, the powers that be are very much cognizant of what's going on, and they're taking notes. They're taking notes. They're making changes in YouTube that are going to affect a lot of people's bags. I'm not here to stop nobody's bags, because I'm going to tell you something now. We can all eat. We can all enjoy the fruit of our labor on these YouTube streets. Again, I appreciate everyone for coming in. I've been on here 16 minutes. Wow. So I do talk a lot. But anyhow, I really appreciate you all so much. If there's something that I've said that can help you, take it and use it. And I guarantee you, when you use it, it won't take long for you to see the effects of it. It won't take long. So this narrative of gay men coming after women, I have sat and watched women throw slick shade, be personal, hit below the belt. And then when the male comes after them, there's this whole other narrative that he's attacking me, and he's not a woman. I mean, he's not a man, but he wants to be a woman and all this kind of stuff. And I sit and I watch, and I'm like, well, how did you derive at that conclusion? And then these people talking about their gaydar in their spirit. I'm going to say this to y'all. When I heard that, I gave them the eyebrow and the side eye, and then I just bust out laughing, because that is so ridiculous. When you listen to the composition of that statement, you're like, in your spirit, gaydar. Since when is gaydar spiritual? And what kind of spirit are you talking about? What kind of spirit? There are a lot of spirits out here, beloved. But it's all about being connected to the right spirit. Because sometimes our spirit is not the right spirit. It's the spirit of self-centeredness, where we're doing it, and wow, and it's just dropped into my spirit. It's the spirit of wanting clicks and views. It's the spirit of wanting to gain a bag. Well, I'm going to say this, and I'm sure we've seen it time and time again. A bag that's ill-gotten, you don't have long, and then at the end, it's a whole lot of disappointment with it. So if you're going to get your bag, beloveds, get your bag right. Get your bag right. Because see, one thing about getting a bag right, it perpetuates. It keeps going. But when you get a bag wrong, that bad boy will stop in midstream and have you looking like a complete fool. And I'm not trying to have my people look like fools. If I can help it, if I can say something that will change your trajectory, if I can, your viewpoint, your posture, then I'm all about it. I am all about it. So again, let me make this clear. My observations so far, yes, is from the standpoint of watching the women, because the women are the ones that uh, teach our children. They influence our children in at least the first 5 years of their lives. And what you put into a child in those first 5 years becomes difficult to uproot. So all of us with children, let's think about it. Let's think about what we're doing. Let's think about uh, what perspective we're giving our children. If you give that little girl that men are no good, then that's how she's going to live her life. Men are no good. I just use them and drop them, or what have you. Or men are not important, because a lot of women have this um, mentality that I can get it for myself. Yes, you can. You can, but it's really good to have help. I heard somebody say years ago that the man is the head, but the woman is the one that turns it. So you have a lot of control. But if you do not use that influence, not control, but influence, you have a lot of influence. And if you don't use that influence correctly, another generation will be messed up doing the same thing or doing worse than what our generation has done. Think about your legacy. Your legacy. Your legacy. Think about your legacy. I mentioned on my last video that I suggested or recommended that we get the book, The Willie Lynch Letter, The Making of a Slave. If you can get that, take a look at it. Get your hands on it and take a look at it. And then you'll begin to see that the behaviors that we are portraying, or our behaviors, you will see that it's right in line. And I made mention that Willie Lynch said, if you implement this program correctly, or this mentality correctly, it will spin on its own axis for at least 300 years or better. And when you read that book and you look at our behaviors, you'll see that it is very deeply rooted in a slave mentality. We don't need to look to a president to free us. That's a work that we ought to do for ourselves in our minds, free our minds. Because if you're free in your mind, no one can control you. No one can control you. They can't control you out of fear. They can't control you out of necessity or provision. They cannot control you. I'm glad I got that out. And thank you all for listening. And again, I'm not ranting, I'm just sharing. And I'm not putting my intent is not to put anybody down, but to reveal. I'm not trying to cover stuff up. And for those of you that may think that, oh, he's always on the women, or ever since he came on, he's been on the women. Okay, the men are going to have their turn. I'm sure the men are going to have their turn. But at this point, let's start with where the influence of the next generation begins. It's about getting you to think and to rethink. I appreciate every one of you that have come to my live. I really, oh my gosh, I feel very special. You guys have made me feel special. And I thank you. I thank you. Again, let me say to, oh, Gwen Jones, how are you? Thank you for dropping in. Miss Bread, thank you. To Nepturian, listen, man, thank you for, your great content and for our camaraderie. I appreciate it. Miss Deanna Irving, appreciate you. And baby, sometimes my hair stands up on the back of my neck. I appreciate you, and I love you. I love what you do. I love what you do. And to all the content creators that are in here, thank you. I appreciate you and your acceptance of me and your interest in me. I appreciate it. At this point, people, I think I have just about talked out. Again, thank you everyone for attending. Sexy and complete. Good day to you. Thank you all so much. Wow. Yeah, I'm just going to say to everybody, much love to you. As much love as your heart and hands can hold. Enjoy the rest of your day.